Hi, my name's Louise, and welcome to the Adventures with Yarn podcast. I will be talking about crafts that I like to do, mostly with yarn, knitting and crochet, also some with thread, like cross stitch and embroidery. I have wanted to do something like this on YouTube in the past, and I'm finally gonna give it a go. I definitely been inspired by a few other podcasts that are amazing. I want to start out by thanking people like Celeste at Yarn to Table. I wasn't really aware of how much of a community is online. I mean, I knew about Ravelry and I would like use patterns and stuff, but I hadn't YouTubed any knitting and crochet things before. But I was feeling really down in the dumps several weeks ago. And so down in the dumps, in fact, that I hadn't knit or crocheted for like 2 weeks, which is like a really big deal. If you are an avid knitter, you know, that is like a big deal. So I knew I was depressed, down in the dumps, if I wasn't knitting and crocheting, and my family knew that too. And mostly dealing with fertility issues, but that is a whole nother story. Anyways, I knew that I could cheer myself up if I could just get to knitting again. But I just didn't have the oomph. And so I went to YouTube and looking for some inspiration, and I thought, you know, it's time to start making Christmas presents. What can I find that is going to inspire me? So I searched for Christmas knitting, and the very first result that came up was Yarn to Table. And I think it was like an older podcast too, like from last Christmas, so it was like almost a year old. But I just started watching her and I really appreciated what she was doing, and it gave me the inspiration to start crafting again. I make it sound like I had this like huge hiatus from crafting. It was only a couple weeks, but in my little crafting world, that is a long time. So anyways, I want to shout out to those that inspired me, like Celeste at Yarn to Table, and then that kind of led me to the Stranded podcast with Florence. I've been very much enjoying that, and also the Knitting Vicariously podcast with Caroline, also known as dunderknit. I've been very entertained with that. That also, watching her podcast led me to check out Voolenvine, which is also a very nice podcast. I feel that watching these podcasts and these knitters, these makers, that I have become like woke in the knitting world. I feel like the things that these people make are really sophisticated things, like these beautiful sweaters with like very thin yarn, which just sounds so daunting and intimidating, and it looks like they're just whipping these things up, like, you know, like knitting so fast, and kind of make me wonder, like, am I a basic knitter? Like, I've never made a full-on sweater. I've made some baby sweaters, and most of my yarn is not this beautiful, lush, you know, specialty specialty yarn with wool and all that stuff. A lot of my stuff is like acrylic stuff that you would find at the craft stores down the street. And I'm not talking about the specialty yarn shop, of which there is one in town. Like, my stash is probably like 85% from Micheals and JoAnn's and Hobby Lobby. But I feel like I can continue this process of becoming woke, becoming more aware, and journeying through this awakening of kind of these more sophisticated projects and things, and expanding my knowledge of use of the different fibers, and working on like color work stuff and all kinds of stuff. So we'll just continue on this journey and make all the crafts, make them all. So anyways, thank you for watching. If you stuck around this far, thank you so much. We're going to follow in the other sort of structured pattern of some of these knitting podcasts, and we're going to start off with some finished objects. So since this is my very first podcast, I kind of wanted to start off with some things that maybe it's not super hot off the needles recent, but relatively recent. I mentioned that I have never made an actual full-on sweater. I've just made baby sweaters, and I really like making baby sweaters. This is the In Threes cardigan by Kelly Herdrich, I do believe. This is a super cute top-down knit in the round one piece baby cardigan with some textures here that it's just a super lovely knit. This is fun, relatively fast. It's like I've made a sweater, but it's like in miniature. And then I added these really cute little buttons, if you can see them. They're kind of like this pewter color. And I just thought these roses would just look so pretty with this kind of rose pink. I don't remember the exact color name of this, but I do know that I got this from Hobby Lobby, the fabric here. It is I Love This Cotton by Hobby Lobby, and it is my favorite yarn so far to make baby sweaters out of. I think I've made about 3 of this particular baby cardigan in the past. I hope to have children in the near future, and so I just kind of made this to keep in case, just in case. I hardly ever knit anything for myself. That's one thing that we'll talk about at some point in this podcast. I've heard some other podcasters mention gift knitting, and maybe kind of laughing like, oh, gift knitting, when do I ever do that? That's all I do. All I do is gift knit. That's it. My sister came to visit me, and it was snowing outside, and you know, she was like, oh, you know, she was from out of town, so she was like, you know, let me borrow some warm clothes. Where's all your hats? Where's all your knitted scarves? And I didn't have like any. I had one at that time, and she was like, but you're always knitting and crocheting. And yeah, I am always knitting and crocheting for other people. Like I usually start Christmas knitting usually like late summer, because I just love making things for other people. Sometimes it depends on the people. I will learn who doesn't appreciate my hard work, and then maybe they won't get something quite as nice next Christmas, but then most of my family really does appreciate what I make for them. This sweater, I have made one in a mint green for someone else's little baby, and one of my coworkers I also made in like a pale pink with wooden buttons. Oh, it looks really cute. So I think this would be really cute, just kind of like over a little onesie with some little leggings, and just a really cute, fun knit, and one of my favorites that I've made of the baby blankets, excuse me, of the baby sweaters. But speaking of baby blankets, so my next finished object is something that is fresh hot off the needles. This is the chevron knitted baby blanket by, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, like Espace tricot or espace tricot. This is on Ravelry as a free pattern, and I just love it. Look at this. It's pretty good sized. I like that English grammar there. This is a really good size blanket. I kind of took some inspiration from the colors on the pattern by having like this contrast accent color on the ends. I think I would make some different color choices next time though. So the story behind this, I went up to, I'm just gonna cuddle this while I tell you the story. I went up to Portland a couple weeks ago to take a certification test for my job, just like to get a little extra bonus, a little extra certification. And I thought, you know, I should treat myself. I passed. It gave me the results right away. I passed. I was like, you know, I should treat myself and go buy some yarn. As if anyone ever needs a reason to go buy some yarn. But I wanted to go to the specialty yarn shop, which is called Tangled Pearls here in town. And so I went inside, sent my husband off to do errands while he dropped me off because I knew I was going to be a little while and take my time. And I knew that I was looking for yarn to inspire me to start making Christmas presents. I saw in the shop that they had a finished chevron baby blanket on display, and just kind of reminded me. I was like, ooh, yeah, I've made that before. I've made this before on some like red heart yarn, and it was okay. But the displayed blanket in the shop was made with alpaca. No, not alpaca. Blue Skies. Let me find my little tag here. So the brand is Blue Skies Alpaca, but the yarn is 100% organically grown worsted cotton in worsted weight, and it is pretty luscious. It's nice and soft, and especially with the demo in the shop, I was just like, ooh, I have to have it. So I started picking out the colors and trying to figure out like what would look good together, and not until I came home did I realize that I grabbed like an extra color. Like my intentions were to have an accent color and 4 colors in between for stripes. And then I came home and I was like, wait, there's the accent color and there's 5. As it turns out, the number of rows in the blanket makes it work out perfectly. The actual pattern has the striped pattern with 1 less stripe of a particular color, however that falls in the pattern, before it does the next accent color. So I just decided to make it work. If you know it's bright, maybe a little funky and fun, this is going to go to my brand new baby niece, baby Oliviana. She was born in August 20th. I really hope I'm not wrong on that date, but and I also hope my sister's not watching this, but this is going to be for her. And this is the crocheted, not crocheted, excuse me, this is knitted. This is the chevron blanket, and I really like it. It's really fun. This took me a couple weeks. On my days off, I work these 12.5-hour shifts 3 days a week. So usually my work week is those 3 days in a row, and then I have 4 days off, and those 3 days I'm pretty much all consumed with work, and then just come home, sleep, wake up, repeat. But on my days off is when I can really get in my knitting. So this took about 2 weeks on my days off, and I'll be excited to give it to her. So my next finished object is also a little bit older, but I feel that I would be remiss if I did not talk about crochet and amigurumi. So this is a little cup of coffee. Isn't it cute? One of my favorite things to make is also little stuffed animals, or amigurumi, which is a style of crochet, usually in the round, to make these little squishy little objects, stuffed animals, if you will, whatever. You can see I have a few behind me. Cute, short little projects. You can personalize them, change their little faces, do whatever. This was definitely yarn from Hobby Lobby, nothing fancy, just kind of the colors that I liked, and you know, just plain old acrylic yarn. Got some little safety eyes. They have special locks behind them so that they won't come out. The only thing that does kind of stink is that these kinds of things don't make the best presents to give people with babies. Even though these are considered safety eyes, they are technically still a choking hazard, because if they were to come apart, or like say, worst case scenario is like, if I think about like if someone's dog were to get a hold of this, and if they were to make the actual yarn unravel, then the eye could come out, and then it would be this little piece of plastic that a baby could, you know, choke on, and we don't want that. So I think most of these don't make really good presents to give people with babies, or to have like for babies to play with. They're super cute to have like on your shelf, or if you know, if you have a little office or a little cubicle to decorate, which I think that would be so much fun to have your own cubicle to decorate, as you will. Then you can use these safety eyes. Otherwise, I think that I'm going to start doing more of my little stuffed animals if they're going towards a baby recipient, that I'll probably just start doing like a French knot, a black French knot in black yarn, just as an eye, and it'll probably look just as good. So this was in, I think the pattern was like in a book that I got for Christmas, and then it all tied in with Christmas. Isn't it funny how you remember certain projects kind of give you these memories? But this is from visiting family in Arkansas, and that was when we didn't have a Hobby Lobby out here in Oregon. So I got a gift certificate to Hobby Lobby, and I also got like a book of patterns, and I remember that this little guy was in the book of patterns, and I picked out the yarn at Hobby Lobby, as well as the yearly Christmas Hobby Lobby haul at that time. So that just really takes me back. So cute little squishy squish there. Okay. All right, so I think that is it for the finished objects at this time. We will move on to works in progress, or rather right now, one work in progress. I feel confident enough to show one of my works in progress at this time. So over the last couple weeks, like I mentioned, I've been watching these podcasters, YouTubers, and I feel that they are inspiring me to do a bit more of a more sophisticated knitting. Sorry, we almost had a disaster there. I kind of bumped the, what do you call this thing? Tripod. Almost bumped the tripod and, anyways, so Yarn to Table is doing a knit along for the year. I feel like I'm a little late to the game, but I was kind of checking it out. I was like, what is a knit along? Like, this doesn't sound familiar. What is that? What it appears to be, maybe you guys can tell me the difference, because what I would have assumed would have been a knit along would have been something like a mystery knit along, like something that everyone gets the same pattern maybe, and they all follow the same pattern, and then you don't know what it is until the next clue comes out, the next part of the pattern, which always sounded very intriguing. I've just never actually brought myself to do it. I thought that was a knit along, and maybe it is. Please let me know in the comments if you are knowledgeable of these things. But I saw that she had this knit along in the land of fill in the blank. So like land of wool, land of silks. there was no land of acrylics. So already I knew this is gonna be different. This will be good for me if I can, you know, figure out and engage and use some other fibers that I'm not used to. Not to say that, I mean, I have experience knitting with some other fibers on occasion. I did knit a super nice, soft, like collared cowl once out of baby alpaca yarn that was just like a cloud. It was like this little cloud to put around your neck. And surely I've used other things. I've used cotton, oh yeah, cotton yarns. But I definitely don't have experience with wool, and it's been a little daunting. Sometimes the wool doesn't feel as soft, and also just kind of knowing like, oh gosh, if that ever ended up in the dryer, it would not be good. It would not be good. But I wanted to expand my repertoire, and it was inspired by Celeste's podcast, Yarn to Table, and her knit along. So she had one that was a land of wool, and I think it includes alpaca, if I'm not mistaken, including alpaca and different sheep. Well, and also she wanted the wool to include like the breed of the sheep that was used, and it couldn't be just like merino wool. And so when I went to our town specialty shop and looked around, I asked the shopkeeper, you know, can you help me find some wool, but not just merino wool. They really struggled. So maybe this is a bit more fancy than my town can handle. Maybe this needs to like go onto the internet. But in my search, she did show me some yarn that I have balled up here. This is, oh, it's from Cascade yarn, and it's called Eco Duo. And the duo is that it is, I want to say 70% baby alpaca, and 20% merino wool. And what's really intriguing about this yarn also is that it's undyed. And once I realized that, I was like, how can it be undyed, but yet the name has a color? So the color is called Storm. And but actually all the colors in this particular line are pretty natural. So maybe they really are just the color of the alpaca and the sheep, and because they're all pretty natural. So I, and this is really soft yarn. So I cast on, and what I am making, I went ahead and just went to the website looking at, try to find some more information about this yarn. Like, what's the deal with it being, is it like really not dyed? Like this is actually the color of the animals? And it appears to be that way. So at the Cascade Yarns website, there were suggested patterns, and I just found one of those. I found a cowl called the Prairie Wheat Cowl. And so I cast this on. I'll be making this as a Christmas present for a special person. And it'll be a cowl. The yarn, for being undyed, appears to be striping pretty well. I'm not sure if the phone can see it or not. The ends are kind of a little bit darker, and then it gets kind of lighter as we go up. I don't know why this kind of turns at the edge, but I got ribbed, you know, knit 2, purl 2, ribbing border, and then this is going to have cables in it. And I think this will be a relatively nice and simple knitting project. It's just gonna have some cables and then 4 rows of stockinette and then cables and so on and so forth until you get to the next edge of some more ribbing, and it'll be nice and soft to hold around someone's neck, keep them nice and warm. I also should show you, I've been inspired also by these podcasters to invest in some really cute progress keepers, which I didn't even know was a thing until I was YouTubing. I knew about stitch markers. Like stitch markers, you can buy just little plastic little doodads, you know, that get the job done, help you, you know where your round starts or whatever. But when I saw these podcasters with these super, super cute little charms and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, what a new dimension of making your knitting fun and cute. So I went to Etsy and I found the Clever Clove. They make these adorable charms. This one here, if you can see it, is this little hedgehog. This little hedgehog knitting a scarf. I think he's knitting the little scarf that he's wearing. And it's just really cute. I don't know if it's gonna do it this justice, but it's really, really cute. Anyways, so yeah, so this is what I will currently be working on as a Christmas present to give. Alright, so I mentioned that I went to the yarn shop to celebrate passing a certification that I sat for, which my husband thinks is a very funny wording, that you would sit for a test. Oh yeah, I went and sat for this test to certify. That is what I did. I went and sat down and took this test. But anyways, on to expanding my experience with yarn and fibers. I went ahead and got some wool. Yeah, wool. So we have here, this is also Blue Sky fibers, and we got 2 different skeins of wool. It is Highland wool, I do believe. 100% fine Highland wool, and it is pretty soft. It's not like scratchy like some wool that I've squished in the past, and I figured I'll just give it a go. So the colors here are Quartz Crystal and Gray Harbor. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with these, but I'm going to do something just to kind of get the feel for it. Maybe I'll make like a hat with some color work. There's a certain ombre hat that I've knit in the past, although with worsted yarn that's kind of probably going to be pretty heavy if it's stranded and double, whatever the word is, double yarn in some places for the stranded color work. That seems like that'd be a bit heavy. Or maybe I'll just do stripes, like a striped hat or mittens or something. Something that's funny, with how much I gift knit, most of my family lives down in California where it's not very cold most of the year. So it's always an interesting struggle to figure out what to make for them that they'll actually use, rather than knitting for people that live up here in the Northwest, or a family that lives down in Arkansas where they actually have cold weather and the like, and they can use warm articles of clothing. But we will try these and see what comes out of it. The next little bit of haul is also a wool blend, but these colors were just so pretty, I just had to get them. So this brand is called Alegria Grande, I think, and we have 2 different colors. This I just thought was a lot of fun. These colors spoke to me. hopefully you can see just this deep navy with pink and some whites with light blue, and whoa, I really like this. I hardly ever make anything for myself, so usually the things that I really like I'll make for maybe my sister-in-law or one of my sisters, and let them really enjoy it, but who knows. Probably after Christmas I'm going to work on making myself some things too, but I really like this. This colorway, I think it's called Acero, A-C-E-R-O. And this totally makes me think of a certain person. Hopefully they're not watching. And so when I saw this, it totally spoke to me of this person. And so for sure I'll probably be making like a cute hat out of this skein. And it'd be really interesting to see how the color actually comes out in the knitting. So those will be really fun projects to get going. All right, well, I think that is it for now. Thank you for watching. We will just see how things go with this podcast, and I feel honored that you have watched this far. If you have, we'll give it a go. I think this could be fun. I am excited to kind of put myself out there and be a part of the knitting and crocheting community. I think in future episodes we may also talk some more about cross stitching and embroidery, but most of my crafting is with the yarn and crafting with it. So my name's Louise, and this is the Adventures with Yarn podcast. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, feel free to hit the like button or subscribe. All right, see you next time.